So I went through the whole context video, and I promised at the beginning of that to make some application to what it was that I'm talking about in terms of context, and I failed to do so. So consider this video an addendum to that first one. I'll have a link set up, blah, blah. Anyway, you'll get here, hopefully, to see how those things kind of relate in terms of context. And the artifact that I want to use for this is this image by Robert Mapplethorpe. And if you know anything about the art form of photography, you know that Robert Mapplethorpe is a pretty controversial guy. If you look him up, you might have your eyes burned out of your head if you find stuff like that to be offensive. But he was quite the groundbreaking photographer in the late 1970s and into 1980, and really caused quite a stink when it comes to certain kinds of public funding for the arts. But nowadays, he seems to be tame. Anyway, enough of that. So we have this image here. I won't tell you what it's called yet because I want you to kind of look at it first and create some kind of meaning here in terms of what it is that you're seeing. We have arguably a woman who is, it looks like she, by the artifacts that are involved with this, that she might be in some kind of mourning, perhaps. That's mourning, that she may be awake or a funeral of some sort with the black veil, the white roses. It becomes indicative of that. But then we have this, what's called a juxtaposition in terms of what she's wearing, and the leather bustier, the bare shoulders, and then you have this tension going on with the arm, the flexed bicep happening there, the restraint that she's showing, her right fist pointed up and she's holding it back. What does that mean? There's all kinds of things that are happening within this, right? So what I want to do is start labeling maybe the context within this to kind of give you an application of why context becomes important to extrapolating meaning. And spoiler alert, we're not going to get any more meaning out of this, okay? We're going to use context to kind of structure things around that. And the first one here is physical. And it's tough to go through and even figure out what the physical context of this is because we have no cues to that whatsoever. We have a neutral gray background. We have this kind of graduated gray thing that seems to be supporting her, but we don't know if that's a chair or a set piece or anything. We really don't have a physical context for this other than maybe extrapolating that she is in some type of a funeral, death ritual environment of some sort, okay? Which brings me to the psychological context. Here is where we can go crazy because maybe she is a widow in mourning, but maybe she's very strong. I just said she's a widow, a strong one because of the tension that we have happening within that. So she's feeling some sense of, well, we don't know what she's feeling because her face is covered, right? We don't see her eyes within that, which Mapplethorpe leaves us perhaps to reach our own psychological conclusions to this. And that's what's cool about visual communication because we're bringing our own bag of tricks to everything that we look at, right? And our own interpretations of those things, while they might be codified in this whole context idea to give us meaning, that's our meaning that we've ascribed to that. So if you have experience with having lost a loved one, and if you have, I'm sorry, this might mean something different to you than if you don't have any experience with death, right? That's what you bring to the image here. The social context, now we're starting to get somewhere because there's two things going on here. She obviously plays some kind of role, right? And there are some rules hard at work here, or at least hard at work in terms of being broken, at least by the mores or the rules of funerals, especially in conservative context. Would you wear that to a funeral? Maybe, I guess, if you were married to a biker who got, you get the idea, right? Social context, roles and rules are going on here. We can guess maybe what her relationship is, and we can certainly see that some rules here are kind of being bent a little bit. And then the cultural side of this. Death is... funerals are ritualistic. It's cultural. Certainly there's a spiritual aspect to that for many people in that respect. And the artifacts that she has on goes through and speaks a little bit to what that cultural context is trying to say here within that. And lastly, temporal, and this really doesn't relate because we have no idea what time this is happening. If it is a funeral time, that might be its only relationship there. But we're left with little to go by. My whole point here, though, is to show you how context works within our interpretation of an artifact, a visual communication artifact. This being Lisa Lyon, the bodybuilder. This was shot in 1980 by Robert Mapplethorpe. Now maybe you have a little bit more context. I don't have a whole lot. I've studied this photograph for 7 years, and I'm still amazed by everything that's going on within this, not only photographically in terms of its contrast, but also in terms of its context and what it's able to get us to converse about. Okay, enough said. Hope that helps you out.